we are going to try and make the most of it, and I'm going to try and present you a lovely little vineyard that indeed we acquired at the beginning of this century. So in order to present it to you, it's in the Bordeaux area, as you know. It's very close to Saint-Émilion. It's actually in the right bank, and it's a small estate which belongs to a very small appellation as well. But this appellation has a big advantage. It's ideally situated on very good hills. And the hills are important, to give the quality of the terroir. The property is not big, but extremely well situated, with the soil which has majority of clay and limestone. Clay is extremely important because this is the reason why we will have wine that will gain with age and open with time, but have, depth and quality. So when we made this estate, we absolutely fell in love with the beautiful aromas we could, make out of that. And we have made a lot of steps with it. We first bought a vineyard which was, in a good state, but was not run in an organic way. And now for 12 years, we are, now been converting the vineyard into a totally organic farm. So it's a mission. It's not always easy. It's extremely passionating, and it's how you really become, a lover of nature, and you start understanding what is happening on the ground, and you start understanding how, the nature is going to give you back what you give it to you. So throughout the years, we have been having, in terms of climate, good years, others, years which were, more and more difficult. But with the years, we have been learning our grounds. We have been learning how to get the most of them. We have been also learning to manage to get a good immune system to the plant. And with this immune system, it gives our plant strength, energy, and good energy. And hopefully, what we are trying to do is trying to convert this energy into something really enjoyable in your glass. So Franc-Cardinal is, on the whole, planted with a majority of Merlot, which is the dominant grape in the right bank. But even if we have a majority of Merlot, we have, through the years, decreased a little bit this amount of Merlot to increase the amount of Cabernet Franc. And also we have some Malbec, and extremely recently we have now some Petit Verdot, which is the latest last addition. So Merlot is going to give in the wine, in the complexity, Merlot is going to give roundness, smoothness. It's a wine which is it's a grape which is extremely easy to grow. It's a little bit sensitive to, spring disease, but it's a rewarding grape, which is always soft and easy. Very interesting is the Cabernet Franc, which is a grape we particularly like in our vineyard. It's a grape that has an extremely delicate touch about it. It's a grape which is more difficult to grow because it is ripe a little later, and it's also a grape which gives floral aromas and mainly an extraordinary elegance. So this is why we are so close to this grape. In the past years, we have been adding a little bit of Malbec. We already had some, but we have a little more. Malbec is extremely interesting in a blend because it means spices. It has also a relatively high acidity together with a beautiful color. So again, it is adding to the blend something, really interesting, and a complexity which is a combination of complexities. And for, the last but not least will be the Petit Verdot. Petit Verdot has unique aromas of what we call the English candy, and also it gives, the wine lots of structure. So I was telling you we were working organic. In other words, it means obviously not using pesticides, not using herbicides, but not only. We are trying to get more and more, further and further with it. We are planting the vineyards with some legumes, which is a natural fertilizer. We need nitrogen because the nitrogen is going to give really interesting quality to the leaf, and the leaf are really important to transform the sugar and make the grape grow. Lately, we have been also changing a little bit our way of working. In other words, from the beginning of the spring to the summer, we are not plowing the ground. We are not either trying to cut the grass. In other words, rather than making the vineyard look extremely beautiful and trim and shortcut, etc., with extremely sort of tidy rows, we have discovered that the more you leave the plant in peace during the few months when it needs to make its aromas, its delicacies, and the energy must be given to the grapes, the better the results are. In other words, yes.
So Sophie, you and I can geek out on this for a long time. I want to move to the 2018 if we can, and talk about that, and then we can come back as needed. But for the 2018, first of all, let me just say this: one of the reasons we were thinking about this tasting to begin with was because that we were starting to ship the 2018, but the wine was a little bit closed still. I mean, we knew it was going to be a phenomenal wine, but it was a little bit closed. In other words, it needed a little more time back in the latter part of last year when we were when we shipped it over, and we wanted really to give everybody an opportunity to understand that if they tasted a bottle when it first arrived, it may need a little time, a little extra time in the process of letting it breathe a little longer, or maybe even better yet, opening the bottle a little later.
Sure.
But
I'm a little sorry. I'm too talkative about the general thing, but I was going to come to the 18. The 18 is a different wine, but it's a super wine, and we are very proud of it. But let me tell you, you say the 18 was a little, close in the beginning, and I think it's a bit normal because, unfortunately, we should at the moment be presenting the 17, but for some reason, in 17 we had a huge frost. So this is why the 18 had to go instead of waiting a little more. However, so how was the year that year? That year was this particular wine has specifically a higher proportion of Cabernet Franc than normal. Normally, our blend is 24% Cabernet Franc, but this wine has something like 34 Cabernet Franc. Why? Because we had a very wet and humid spring and even early summer. In other words, we had humidity, and who says humidity means fungus risk, etc. So the Merlot is more sensitive. So we had excellent Cabernet Franc this year, and this is why the proportion of Cabernet Franc is a little bit higher. So this one is just like a shy kid but it has absolutely superb aromas. And, I'm very pleased when, Rob, you said that maybe is my favorite of all. It's a wine that needs a lot of air. In other words, when you just open the bottle and when you finish the bottle, the wine is going to be 100% different. So the first thing to do is try and pour this wine in a glass which is big enough so that you have a lot of time and space to move your wine around. Ideally, if possible, if that wine could be drunk on a flower day, would be even better. When I'm saying flower day, I'm talking about the moon, the days of the moon. You can have either flower or fruit day, or a root day, or a leaf day, but the wine is definitely better on a fruit day or a flower day. So specifically for a wine which is very young. So this wine is going to be totally different if you give this wine a good opportunity, to breathe, long enough. In actual fact, if the wine has been twirled, long enough, I mean, the aromas that are, it's expelling are, really exceptional. The dominant, of course, will be red fruit, red little berries. And it has also a little touch, but very delicate wood, because we are not using too much wood. And it has also this very Cabernet Franc flower, type. I think it's a wine that will have a very good keep, but do not hesitate to open it right now, because it's, it can show with some air, it will show immediately. What is also extremely interesting in this wine is the fact that the texture is very, very silky. And this is the organic work, I think, that make that all the life, which is in the ground, which, gives complexity to the wine. And the reason why earlier I was also telling you that during the growing season, we are not touching the grounds, is also a factor that makes that, our wines are a little bit tight, which is the reverse of oxidized in the beginning, but they open and new aromas are coming. Strangely enough as well, it's not strange, but it's, completely normal. And it's also something that happens quite a lot with organic wines. If you happen to open a bottle and you just close it with a cork, the following day, instead of being dead, the wine will be different, more open, and sometimes even better. So it is a characteristic, and it corresponds of also to the fact that, as I was saying earlier, we are trying not to plow our ground, nor cut our grass, nor do these kind of things, meaning our wines are maybe a little tighter in the beginning, but they are, full of promises, and then they will open and discover themselves, gradually, more and more. It's a one that I particularly. It is very subtle. I mean, if you start the nose, if it's delicate and tight and a little bit reserved, it's just like a shy kid in the beginning. But if you let it, breathe a lot, I mean, suddenly it discovers something, which is really, very, very interesting. So, Rob, I don't know if I have been, clear enough on.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can illustrate a little bit about what you're saying too. On
yes.
Yeah. For example, I was frankly a little bit nervous about this wine at the outset because, for the reasons you talked about, it was, we shipped it a little earlier than we would have probably otherwise done. However, and so I just want to go to a little story. We had our staff holiday party, I think on the 30th of December, after the holiday season was pretty much done, and we all went to a dinner, and we decided at that dinner we were going to taste the 2016 against this 2018 together to kind of give our own staff, and this is our entire customer service team as well, to give our own staff a bit of an understanding of, what we're talking about when we're saying, this wine is maybe a little tight and it needs to breathe and those things. And, I've had some phenomenal vintages, fortunately, in the association we've had with CFC. The 2005 was unbelievable. 2010 was ridiculous. 2015, many more good years than anything else for sure. But when we actually sat down and tasted the 2016 and the 2018, and we let it breathe a bit first. We let it breathe for half an hour. So as I've done with this bottle right here of 2018. But frankly, and I tasted the 2018, with you at the Chateau before as well, Sophie. But when I was flabbergasted by this wine when I tasted it, because it had aged a little bit, but against the 2016, and the 16 is no slouch. I mean, I really found this wine to be extraordinary. And for me, and I told this to Sophie the next day because I was shocked. And I said that to the staff that night. But when I told it to Sophie the next day, I said, Sophie, this, I think, of all the vintages we've ever done, I have to say this is my favorite one. And it's in Bordeaux, it's not known as the best vintage in history, certainly. But for me, this wine was extraordinary, and it is extraordinary. I just, this is the first time I've had a chance to taste it since that day on the 30th, since the 30th of December last year, and it is exactly the way I remembered it. It's just it's got this combination of elegant, this refined elegance, I would say, but it brings out every one of the grapes. I think it's extraordinary, and for me, even though it's going to. The amazing thing is it's going to even get better. I don't know if I'll have any left by the time it gets to be where it should be, because I'll drink it too early, but because it's phenomenal right now. But to me, that story kind of embodies what I feel about this particular vintage. And it's something I was going to say, originally I was going to say, hey, we need to preach patience with this wine. Because it's going to take a little time, and that's probably true, but it is so good right now. I'm
sure.
Yeah.
We have something in common now with the years, and this is why now, whatever the weather is, because 2018 was a very difficult year in terms of weather. We had a very hot summer, with a very wet spring. Well, actually, it's a better year to grow bananas than grape, but where we start to be very sure of ourselves now is that every year we have one more year of organic work. And I'm sorry if I feel like I'm insisting on organic, but it makes such a difference. And in particular, I think, Rob, what you really like in this wine is also the texture. The texture is extremely refined, and it's very, very silky. And it's also something now that, thank God, after a lot of work, we try to have in our wines is this very smooth and elegant texture. And I think this is this elegance you like. And B, the fact we have in 2018 quite a high proportion of Cabernet Franc is very interesting. And I think you love and your palate recognize Cabernet Franc. To give you a little example, our very famous neighbors are, of course, bien sûr, Cheval Blanc and Ozone, which are the two best Saint-Emilion. And strangely enough, both Cheval Blanc and Ozone have a very high proportion of Cabernet Franc. And both owners of both these wines recognize that the addition of Cabernet Franc is an enormous plus to a wine of Bordeaux. So especially specifically in the right bank. So this is probably why also this vintage is different. In Bordeaux, we have every vintage is different, and we are just like a mother with the kids, we all like, usually you like all vintages. But it is true that this one is quite special. And, the weather made it that, we have this higher proportion of Cabernet Franc. The common point, however, which we have with the 16, is this silkiness, smoothness, and elegance. In Franc-Cardinal, we are always trying to show the terroir and not hide the wines. In other words, our wines are anything but technical wines. They are wines which we want as natural, as pure as possible. And for that purpose, we also use a bit of wood, but not too much. We don't want the wood to hide the wine. So let's say the 2018 has quite an elegant body, so this is why. So yes, of course, it still is a bit young, but it has the common point of, silkiness and smoothness with its little characteristic of, Cabernet Franc, type, which is, I hope, what people would enjoy in this wine as well.
Yeah, and going to your comments about the organic side of it. I mean, I think historically, I think people would say, hey, organic wines are a little more expensive and they're not as good, but hey, they're organic.
Better.
That's not that has changed radically in this sense. And I think number one, these wines are. I mean, all you got to, and I've been fortunate enough to be able to do this with you, Sophie, is to walk the vineyard and to compare it with the vineyard next door. Yours is organic and so much health. You can see it in the vines. They're so much healthier. They can't help but make better grapes, which obviously mean better wines, or the opportunity to be better wines. The difference is extraordinary. Just looking at, and I'm not an enologist. I'm certainly not a vineyard person, but you don't have to be to look at to notice the difference between the health of those vines versus the next door neighbors, which are basically identical in terms of terroir and weather and all of those things. They are much better wines. I mean, this is not about making excuses. Organic in this case, I think, is they're just simply much better wines. And I know we could talk about that particular issue all day as well, but it's exciting to see the changes that have been made in that regard. And I think you're right that the 2018 is an example of what's this history of moving in that direction. For almost 10 years now, you've been moving in that direction, but really they are. And you hit the nail right on the head. I think the things you identified are the exact things that I found, that are so pleasing in this vintage, and why thinking about the future of CFC is so exciting for all of us. Because it's just, if you go back to 2003 and 2004 and look at 2018, I mean, it's there's not even it's unbelievable. And I love those wines back then as well. So, but this is just another taken to another level. And one thing, Sophie, I know we don't have a lot of time, but one thing I'm really excited about and haven't had a chance to look at or be aware of, but this new direction you're going with these amphora bottles. I'd like you to just talk for a minute about that if you can. And I'll see them for the first time maybe this year when we finally are able to see you again. But sure. I just think that's just another point of interest in terms of explaining philosophy, from the philosophy standpoint of where CFC is really going for the future and why it's so exciting.
Yes, as you said, I mean, the ground means a lot. And I just quickly want to go on one point. Everybody thought at the beginning, organic is just more expensive. It doesn't make, better wines. So let's just put one thing clear. If you drink organic, at least you drink healthy. Okay, that's, everybody knows it. It's not a problem. It's not one thing. But by making organic ground, you allow all this life underneath to exist, and all this life is in a compulsory way, going to give complexity to your wine. And this complexity and strength will give a ripe and balanced grape. And if you have a ripe and balanced grape, or a balanced grape, will always be better once vinified. So as a proof, and just to finish on this organic thing, which I know I'm a bit obsessed to, because now I understand so much more things. In press reviews, and where specialists are drinking blind, I'm talking specialists, those people who, can, define incredible things, most wines winning, top, top seats are these kind of wines. Not because they're organic, because simply this way, allows them to have more complexity, more richness, because the richness is in the ground. So, okay, let's go now to, this being said, let's go, yes. If you get a good, grape, what you need to do is also treat it as it should. So, of course, the aging is extremely important. At Franc-Cardinal, we are not too keen on a very heavy or wooded, trend. So in other words, we don't like our wines to be tasting wood. So there is a very, very good and interesting alternative, which are amphoras. And this year, the year started extremely difficult. Because France and all Europe had heavy frost, which we managed to avoid because we trimmed our vineyard very late. Then we had a tough, early season, etc. However, working our ways through, the elements and shivering a bit with the weather, and we ended up, because we had a healthy grape, we could leave our grapes age later. In other words, we picked so late that, everything was ripe. So it is very interesting, because we picked much later than most people, because this year we needed to pick much later. And we are so pleased with the result. We were even astonished ourselves with the result, that we decided to try and find something to really, help the wine to get what it deserved. And this is why, for the first time, we have bought these bloody expensive, but beautiful, beautiful things, which are amphoras. So we had bought these big, huge amphoras, which are 750, liters, each, which is, roughly one amphora is the equivalent of 1,000 bottles, or also the equivalent of 3 barrels. Amphoras are made of a special clay, which formula is, hidden, and so you can't take any kind of amphora. So the type of clay is important. The shape is important, because what happens in an amphora, you are going to get a very smooth, not exactly aging as wood, but there is a movement, there is an energy, there is a sort of synergy with the clay that is going to make a wine more refined, more, even something more smooth, and the fruit is going to explode even more. Before going to that stage, I have had the opportunity to myself taste an excellent wine in Pomerol from a gentleman I know. And I was so stunned by the results that I kept on dreaming of buying some amphoras, for our own vineyard, which is what we did this year, because it was incredible, the difference between the wine, which was in a cuve, which was certainly excellent. It was a very good Pomerol, high quality, etc. And the same wine having spent a year in amphora. It was absolutely breathtaking. So we can't, it's not a gimmick. It's something which is, as I said, breathtaking. So amphora would be a good alternative. So at the moment, we bought just a few, and we are going to make our trials. We have put some Cabernet Franc, we are putting some Merlot Malbec. We are, really trying to find the right balance. And there are many ways to organize it. So either you you blend it. What we want to do is probably something special to see this special result by itself, to see how it expresses and how it changes. Gradually, we can maybe shift more of the farm of the vineyard to amphoras if we are very happy of the result. Theoretically, with our philosophy, with the way we work our vineyard, with our definition and what we are thinking and the goal we are trying to conduct, I really think that it should really correspond to Franc-Cardinal, very well. So this is the first year. So we are trying to get to go, every year a bit further if, God and the weather allow us. But we are trying every time to go, a little bit deeper. And then for us, of course, is a big investment, and it's a philosophical investment as well for the company. I think in the area, we probably are the only ones, with them for us. But everybody around wants to come and taste. Everybody is very excited and see. And so we just put the first wines there in the amphoras. The object itself is extremely beautiful. They are here like, this magnificent, silent, and really peaceful, heavy. There is something reassuring about this amphore. When you look at them, there is something, that gives you a sort of serenity, and you feel your wine is good in it, so we'll see. But it's a very, exciting venture.
It is exciting. And I mean, sorry for the digression myself on that issue, but I'm excited by it. I can't wait to see it. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to see it. And back to the 2018, let's just, I think we should just open the floor if anybody has any questions about the 2018 or about anything you want to ask Sophie. Now would be an appropriate time to be able to do that.
Yeah, I'm so sorry I can't see you guys.
Yeah.
I was going to say, yes, as you say, you probably notice I'm quite talkative about our grounds, about our philosophy, about, the Franc area is extremely beautiful because, Rob knows it well. It's an area where not only you have vineyards, but you also have woods and pastures, and it's extremely varied landscape. So it's an extremely beautiful let's say, holiday goal. And I was going to tell you that for those who are listening and who maybe one day will, travel to France, Paris is certainly extremely beautiful, but there are other things than Paris. And if you guys feel like visiting the country, do not hesitate to get in touch with me, and I will be very pleased to show you the vineyard and explain you as much things as possible, because this is something we like to do. This is something we like to present what we are doing, because we are not making technical wines or industrial wines. We are doing exactly the reverse. In other words, we are, sweating when it's, freezing in April. We are, shivering when it's, raining too much in spring. And, we are really, shivering again, if there is a big thunderstorm in summer. But all in all, we like what we are doing.
Let me just say as well that, I mean, Sophie does not offer that lightly, but it is sincere. Yes. And that, and I've had the opportunity to send, I've been there many times, but I've also had the opportunity to send others there to have this really one-time lifetime opportunity to go see a chateau, not just any chateau, but one in the area so close to Saint-Emilion, and phenomenal, pull back the kind of curtains and really get to know and understand. It's not like going to Napa and talking to the marketing guy about what day they pick the grapes. This is when you go to see Sophie, you're seeing you see everything, and it's amazing, and it's really an opportunity that I would never miss, as often as I could go, and everybody, I think, should have the opportunity to do that once. And it really actually lends a lot to, I think, the credence of the wines, and also, wine is a living, breathing thing, and these wines, when the more you know about them, the more you can taste all of that. So I think it adds a lot. It's a phenomenal, wonderful experience, and we can coordinate that. I know Michael Bean, who's on this call, has been there. I know others that have been there. There's not been one person that I have sent there that has said anything, but this is like almost a life-changing trip to Mecca for them, if I could say that. But I mean, it's like that kind of a phenomenal event, and it's so much fun. It's what makes the wine industry such a fun place to be for us, because one thing you learn is that you're always learning. It's always changing. I mean, I may love this 2018, but next year, this 2018 is going to be a different wine. It's still going to be the same vineyard, same vintage, bottled at the same time, but it's going to be a different wine than it is right now. And so you have those changes. You have the changes also of, the next vintage, and you never stop learning in this industry, which is why it's so much fun and so fascinating to be part of, and to be part of Sophie's journey as well, and what they've been able to do at CFC. And that's why, yes, it was a diversion, but this Amphora thing is going to be it's just another level, I think, of nuance to what these wines can possibly be. And I can't wait to get over there and taste them for the first time, hopefully this summer. So
I see Gerald raise his hand and would like to say something, I believe.
Sorry.
Gerald.
I was just going to ask a question. What would you think would be the optimal time to drink the 2018? I mean, I'm retired, so I probably won't be there to see it, but I'm just curious if I do save some. What would be the optimal?
Yeah. Sophie, did you get that one?
What would be, you mean the best moment?
The best time. What do you think right now with everything?
You mean it's life expectancy?
Yes.
Oh, right.
Pretty much. Yeah.
I think, of course, even if the wine is extremely young now, I mean, it's already really good. I think, it will be super between 5 years and 10 years. And I think it can last for a long, long time. Believe it or not, we opened a bottle of 2002, which is not, and it was still perfectly good. But what's going to happen is this wine will have ups and downs. All of them have ups and downs. But it's going to, on a regular basis, because it's a good wine, it will, grow and grow and grow. So you can start drinking it now, of course. But ideally, in 1 or 2 years, it will be probably a little bit, easier in terms of approach. If you can, keep it a little bit, that would be even better. But if you do the right things, if you air it enough, you can drink it as early as now. But life expectancy, for me, very long.
Yeah. I've always noticed that Cabernet Franc just seems to age really nicely.
Yes, absolutely. I adore Cabernet Franc myself, so I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great that's a great comment, and I know exactly what you're saying, Joe, because I mean I think we're in the same age category here, but this wine. I said it at the outset. I think this wine, it might not, the wine that I've got in my cellar right now, this vintage, I might try to add a little bit to that, but I think it'll probably be all consumed maybe a little bit earlier than it should be, or than it could be, put it that way. And because I think it's wonderful right now. So.
Sophie, this is Michael Bean, and I just want to tell you, I think that this 2018 is a very lovely bottle of bingo.
Oh, thank you so much.
And
Merci.
I'm actually looking forward for trying it again over the next couple of years to see how it changes. So
yes. Mm-hmm. Sure. Yes, it will change. It's true. It will change. Here we try wines at regular intervals, and it's really funny because, well, I don't have a lot of luxuries, but I have the luxury to taste different vintages when I want. And sometimes it's funny. So, for 3 months, the 15 is better. For other 3 months, the 16 is better. For other 3 months, the 18 is. But the 18 is going to come in force, I think. So with this, Cabernet Franc style. And I think it will be second to none. I think it will be a very lovely wine. It's a nice bingo, I think, yes.
Yes. Yes.
But if I may give you an advice, and I'm again sorry to, be the nag that insists, choose to drink a young wine and a young organic wine like this wine. Choose a day which is a fruit or a flower day. That's absolutely, the difference will be spectacular. Well, I don't know if you are all familiar, and probably, it sounds, a bit crazy, but it's not crazy. It's so true.
I would say, Sophie, almost nobody is aware of that. I mean, you're the one that pointed it out to me, but it is worthy of a conversation for sure.
Yeah, I explain you shortly, but it's so important. As you know, we humans are, we are very sensitive to the moon, and there are phases in the moon, and we wine growers know to do things. Even if we are Franc-Cardinal, we are not doing biodynamic. However, there are rules. I mean, for instance, you are what we say soutiré. I mean, when there are, the lees, which are all these elements which are, in the wine. There is this sort of depot. If you want to get rid of it, you need to choose certain dates. And the moon is extremely important. There is a moment to trim the vineyard, which is better. I mean, all this is, it's true. It's a fact. It's, it's not, I don't invent anything. However, back to tasting itself. I mean, if you look at the fruit, if you look at a calendar, a moon calendar, you find it on internet. Close to the date, you will see design either a little apple, a little fruit, or a little flower, a little leaf, or a little radish, which means it's a root. It indicates to the people who want to garden, what to do that day with the garden. But it also, for us, for the wine drinkers, I'm not talking wine makers, but I'm talking wine drinkers. It also tells you what to drink, and you will notice there is a huge difference, but huge difference. I'm not talking to a wine which is already old, very open. A wine will always shows more aromas, should be more open, be easier to drink, and less tight. So it's perfect for Franc-Cardinal 18 because it's young, etc. It will always be better on a fruit day. So please experiment it, and you will see. You will probably smile and remember what I told you. I mean, a wine like this, avoid to drink it on a root day. But if you're drinking on a fruit day, you do it a little favor. You are sort of saving its lacking year of aging, and you will see the difference is spectacular, but really spectacular. So when we are sending a sample to someone who is going to try the wine, judge the wine, put a comment on the wine, we are simply crossing our fingers that the person in question will drink it on a fruit day. So it's a joke.
Is today a fruit day?
Yes, today is a nice day. So I said to Rob, it's a good choice. I think today's a fruit day. Check. I think the weekend is still in fruit day, and the beginning of the week becomes a root day. So it's perfect. You go back to work and you stop drinking, but you can drink.
It seems a little out there, but it really is true. Sophie has proven this to me before, so it is really interesting, and that's almost something that you never hear talked about.
Mais c'est
Certainly.
très important. It's
Yeah.
really important. It's really important. Don't forget, wine is alive. I
Yes.
mean, there is also something extremely interesting, which shows you how alive it is. If there are 2 periods in the year when the wine tastes awful, whichever wines are not awful, I'm not saying, but your wine, a wine which is good, will not taste as good when the vineyard is in flowering, and when it's harvesting. Those 2 periods, I mean, they are also correspond to very heavy moons and very heavy tides. And at this moment, the wine is always more difficult, seem tighter, not so expressive, not so good, a bit harsher, whereas the rest of the year, it doesn't show this difference. So remember that. But, please make the experiments yourself with this wine, with other wines. You will see the difference. Open a wine a fruit day, open a wine, a root day. It's not the same at all.
You guys, listen, we're right up against it right now.
We have another question come in real fast. From Jay Edwards in the chat said, you stated you picked this year late. Does that mean it might be good to buy the 2021 or 2022 vintage?
His answer, I didn't understand the end. Sorry. We picked the harvest was very late here. Yes. Why? So does it mean what?
Does it mean that it might be good, it looks like, to buy like the 2021 or 2022 vintage? I think maybe just an outlook on the 2021 vintage and what it's looking like so
far. Futures? Futures?
Yeah, I think so. That's my guess.
Well, I tell you something. Generally speaking, this year, there is going to be in France as many years as there is wine. You can't even imagine. It's really different. The way you conducted your vineyard made total different results. So it's not general. In 2000 and, this year, well, the year we picked 2021, there was a heavy frost all over France. Burgundy is nearly destroyed in total, Loire Valley, and so there was a heavy frost even in Bordeaux. We were lucky here in Franc-Cardinal. It's not lucky. It's because we were imagining there would be a frost, a late frost, spring frost. So we decided to trim the vineyard very late. Instead of trimming during, the beginning of the winter, we trimmed our vineyard totally end of March. And we saved, thank God, we saved a lot of the crop, like that. Then we had humidity again in spring, which means mildew. Mildew is this bloody nightmare for the wine grower. It's a fungus. It's not, it's a fungus that is hiding in the ground. And if there is heat and humidity, it develops. And it touches mainly the leaf and then the grapes. So it means you are losing crop. It doesn't damage the quality but it means if your, grapes are, it's a sort of rot. That this rot makes your grape shrivel and vanish. And it's extremely difficult when you are organic. You have to be extremely specific because we are not treating our vineyard with, chemicals and things like that. So this is why we want this, good immune system. But this is also why we have, to protect the vineyard with copper and with very, very little doses and, at the right time. But it's difficult. And if so, then the grapes shrivel and vanishes. So we had this, we had all this. But because, thank God, with all these years, we have been trying to take good care of a vineyard. The grapes, we had were healthy. They were not over numerous. They were, half, a little more than, but they were healthy, but not too numerous. So because they were not rotting, and the health condition was good, we kept and kept and kept. And because we had a very beautiful back season after a wet summer, or not wet, but cold, not very warm summer, strangely enough, the autumn was stupendous, warm, beautiful. And because of that, we could keep our grapes on the vines late. And we picked on the 15th of October, which is very late. But a lot of people had to pick earlier because their grapes were rotting. And because their grapes were rotting, because their grapes were not in such good shape, or, for many reasons. So it means the people this year, I'm talking all over France, I'm not talking only of vineyard, but I'm talking generally, the people who this year could get a crop late because their vineyard was in good condition and the grapes were healthy, got a very delicate, nice, beautiful aromas. Because, for instance, the Cabernet Franc this year had time to ripen, and we got a super degree, super finesse, and we were crunching the berries and thinking, yes, we got something here, we were very lucky. But we have been also deciding to do certain things, not only be lucky, because that every year is a new challenge. Every year we have to adapt to different climate, different things, suddenly a storm, suddenly things. It's a very difficult and, very difficult job for this kind of thing,
Sophie,
Hello?
thank you very much. I don't know if Garrett, if there's another question quickly, we're kind of up against it here, but.
Hey, Rob.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's Ray and Mary in Rhode Island. We got a snowy day here. We're sucking down a 2016 as we speak. And I just want to say thank you, to you and Sophie for putting this on.
Thank you very much.
And I think we're closing in. We started with Splash a little while ago. I think we're closing in on our 500th bottle right now. So
wow.
Come and see me. Come and see me.
And then when I add my friends in, I think we're close to 1,000 bottles.
Well, here, let me do this.
Thank you guys for putting this together. This is great.
Thank you very much.
My goodness. Come and taste the wine in amphore. In some time. But I think you should. That deserve a little trip to us. That'd be delightful.
Yeah, that's the next thing for sure.
Rob, Sophia, thank you very much. This is great. Wonderful way to spend an afternoon. And like I said, 2016, wonderful. And I gotta look through my other 4,000 bottles here somewhere.
I love 16. Yeah,
that's 16. Excellent. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Sophie, listen, it's getting late for you there. It's now past 11, so in Bordeaux. So I think we'll let you go, but really appreciate you and appreciate everybody for being on this call and everybody that might watch it into the future as well. So thank you again.
Thank you, Rob. And thank you very much to everybody. Again, you're welcome. And thank you very much for enjoying Franc-Cardinal and being so supportive to our, little vineyard. But we certainly work with passion, and we are very happy and proud. You find it.
Well said.
À bientôt. À bientôt.